the Mere Mortals Meandering, slightly late here as I was delayed by traffic on the way here. 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on a Sunday. Got the two Mere Mortals, Kyron.
One on this side as well.
And today we're going to be talking about bets and gambling.
Pets and gambling. Kyron's favourite friends as of late.
My new job. New job. No. I mean, we will talk about it, but the reason for it and part of this is because of this book here, Thinking in Bets by Annie Duke.
Yes.
Making smarter decisions when you don't have all the facts.
Correct. Life is not chess. It is poker, ladies and gentlemen.
Apparently so. And here's a little in the back. There you go. And Annie Duke has devoted her life to the study of decision-making under pressure. And so she was a professional poker player. I don't know if this is impressive or not. Won $4 million in tournaments, earned a World Series of Poker bracelet, and is the only woman to have won the WASOP Tournament of Champions. And she retired from poker in 2012. The 4 million part is the part I'm not sure.
I think it's kind of impressive. I do remember I used to watch the World Tournament of Poker stuff, and I believe the winnings are like 1.5 million or 1 million for each one.
Yeah. And that's like actual take home, I guess, and not just like chips, right?
To a comparison of maybe one we know, it's not like a Federer, Nadal type tennis. It's a Medvedev. It's someone who was good for a bit and then just, that's it. Yep. They had their time in the limelight. Okay. That's kind of like the example.
Yep. So, there's something to be learned from them, I guess, in terms of...
They became, like they were, at a point in time, I'm sure, she was great at it.
Yep. Okay, cool. So the book was, I guess, striking to me in a couple of respects. It's a psychology book. It's not about chess at all. And I wouldn't even say it's a neurological book, or it's not. There's a bit of science in here. So it starts off with some of the stuff like with 26 seconds remaining in Super Bowl XLIX, whatever that is. 59, maybe?
No, it can't be 59.
No, 49? I don't know. Something. The Patriots, the Seagulls could have ran the ball, but they threw it, and we'll talk about this a couple of weeks ago. And she'd just go on to explain, like, via a couple of different examples of, like, here's a decision that someone made, the CEO, like, decided to fire the president, or the board decided to fire the CEO, one of those, and put a new person in place, but they weren't able to hire someone, and now like everything's worse, and it's just like, shit, we made the wrong decision. And it was like, no. If you actually look at it, all the decision-making processes up to it was correct, but the outcome just didn't reflect what the decision making was, or like the outcome didn't reflect what you hoped would happen.
Yep.
And so this is where I guess you could put luck into it. I think already getting to a negative point just from talking is, how do you determine between luck and good decision making, or like where your decision making actually went wrong, where something could have actually been preventable, and it's like, because it's very, I've talked a couple of times about, I've made some financial decision making in my life where I feel the decision making was good. The reason I decided to invest or not invest in something, or sell something in particular, was a good decision, but the outcome then went the opposite way, where it was like it skyrocketed, and I'm kind of left going like, well, that's annoying.
Sure,
I feel like I've done the right thing and I'm being punished for it, So I guess to open this up to you broadly as well, how does luck play in your decision making when you're deciding on things, or looking back at decisions that you've made and go like, all right, was this actually a good decision and I got unlucky, or was my decision making flawed and this was a preventable outcome?
Yeah, I think I look at the latter rather than the former pretty much always. And I don't know if it's because it feels...
It's like a more high agency thing to do.
Yeah, and it's more... it feels like more high agency. There's more control. There's more... In any review of it, does feel like, okay, in the next time that happens, maybe I'll do this and that. It's not to say that there's not an obvious amount of luck or just the odds can land in whichever way, and it's completely out of the control of oneself. I don't think it. Generally, I think about it in that way though. So I don't know if it was a sports game or a bet from a financial perspective or something else. I could think about it. I could predict things in more of that betting odds perspective. But if things don't go the right way, I will seldom just go, oh, yep, that was luck. Or that was, yep, okay, the probability of that was 12% and it happened. That's just what happened. I think it would be reflectively looking back and going, no, what decisions did I make here that could have improved those odds or changed the circumstances of what was happening?
Yeah. I think it's kind of hard for everyday regular people who are not in a very niche industry like she is or was to appreciate this. It kind of doesn't feel like we actually make that many decisions per day. You know, if you think about it, it's like, what's been like a big decision that you've made recently? You know, there's stuff just like, you know, we bought a new toy for our daughter. It's like, well, okay, it's not really that big of a decision. Like the impact's not huge. Well,
but to get to that, I guess the odds kind of point, you do a lot of decisions day to day. You do a ton load, but usually one, they're not high impact, like you said, there's not high impact. But two, there's also the quantum states of it, the probability states of it is very simple. Like it's not 22% this, 33% that. It's like I would say it's 100% one or the other. That's it.
I would say you're not conscious of a lot of them as well. You're just on autopilot. I mean, every single thing you do is a decision. You know,
if I woke up this morning and I didn't go to the toilet to take a piss, then I would have pissed myself. So it's sort of like at that point, I have a decision to make. I can get up and go to the toilet, or I can not go to the toilet. Yeah. But the overwhelming odds and risks and value of going, but you don't think about that as a choice because it's duh, of course you're going to do that. But the example I'm saying here is, you know, if you're a kid, you know, and you haven't been potty trained or something, you might decide, okay, I'm just going to wean my nappy.
Look, you say that, but funnily enough, these last couple of nights,
Karen's been pissing himself. There you go.
I've been drinking more water than normal, and I've been waking up probably 2 or 3 hours before my bedtime, my normal wake up time.
And having to go to the toilet.
No.
I'm making the conscious choice.
And making the decision, do I get up out of the comfy bed or can I just hold this for another couple of hours and then I'll get up? And the laziness has won. I've stayed in bed, and you know, has that been the better decision? I don't really know. And once again, the impact is relatively
negligible.
low.
Exactly. Yeah. Unless it keeps you up, unless it keeps you awake,
or unless I piss the bed,
or I piss the bed. Yeah.
So in a way, I guess you could say I made the best decision or the better one because I didn't do either of those, and I then was able to get up at my normal time and just go to the toilet.
Sure.
At the normal time.
So but there's definitely so there's definitely decisions where you, as any rational person, you're not calculating the odds.
People coming in and just hearing about mud.
But you're not. There's definitely options where you're not calculating odds. You're not thinking about it overly. It's just choices and decisions that you make day to day, and we make lots of them, but they're not impacting genuinely your day to day life. They're not high value, high risk, whatever. Correct. And it's very easy. There's no middle ground muddle with it. It's very straightforward.
Yeah. Whereas in poker, every decision is not every decision. There's more like high impact ones and intense bursts. I think she was saying they only play 20% of hands, 30% of hands. Even that sounds maybe a bit too high. No. So most of the time they're just sitting there watching. But I guess her point was to be one of the best. If you're just sitting there watching, you don't just tune out and be like, la, 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 la.
Sure, yeah.
You're actually going, okay, if I was in that person's shoes with the information that I potentially have, what would I be making? Or, you know, I don't know what they have. Let's say I continued to pretend to play the game and I had these cards. Why would they be doing what they're doing and then trying to infer what their cards are? So you can see, like, it's a very... there's this just repeated... Probably that's the other point. It's like this repeated decision-making. It's like it's a fresh slate every single time. The cards get dealt. And then now it's like, okay, now the decision making arises again. So her kind of general advocacy of how to thinking in bets, as it implies, I don't know how applicable it would be for everyday life. You know, if I was, because she was, a lot of it she was talking about is like, you know, it's percentage based. You shouldn't be thinking like, this is going to, you know, I guess she was saying especially at the end, was like, it's good to put numbers on it because you could say you're guessing, but then you're guessing about guessing. So you might as well like try and you're guessing about what you think the probability would be, for example. So let's just say it's like, you know, what's the probability I'm going to run immediately, or my brother's soccer game will be at 11 a.m. today. You know, I don't know what the probability is because I don't know the coach. I don't know what the KPR like policy is based on the ground. So you could say like, oh, if I was to give a probability, it'd be a shitty one.
Sure.
Because I don't know. But I guess her point was like, you're always not going to know. So you might as well even just attempt to put it on. So I'll say like, I think there's a 30% chance the game will go ahead today.
Okay.
The point is, if in like I had more information, it could go down to like 2% if I knew the coach was real stingy or like was really protective of the field or something like that. But her point is it's kind of like always worth trying to attach probabilities to things.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, that also is that example of, I think it's horse betting, and if you get people who just like at a surface level of information to try and predict who's going to be the winner, and actually the more information that they get of the horses and the jockeys, their prediction of who's going to win actually goes down. So it's better just to know the barest amount of information. So maybe your 20-30% guesstimate is maybe as good as even if you knew more information. It's just as good at that level.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Is there many scenarios in life where it's better to not attach probabilities to thing? I think if we're being purely rational, no, it's always better to like try and attach a probability to something. But psychologically, for example, that could be deterring, or it could be like annoying or something.
I just don't think we think in bets when it's a symmetrical bet or where it's a bad asymmetric bet. And so the example here is, and that was kind of, when there's a simple yes and no asymmetrical bet, if you will, you don't really think about those options. We just talked about the going to the toilet type of deal. It's very symmetrical. There's no other options that could potentially happen. Okay, maybe there are stupid, random, extreme options that could happen, but they are so infinitesimal, they might as well not come up.
Yeah, I should have, you know, in my decision making to go to the toilet, I probably should have encountered the likelihood of an asteroid hitting the toilet while I'm on it. And I would have been protected in my bed 5 meters away.
Exactly. So, but then there's asymmetrically bad bets, and that's where you don't need to do the numbers. It's just, you know, it's like so bad, the return on your value or investment or whatever versus the choice of doing it, that you don't even think about that as a choice. And that, again, what does that look like? Crossing the road when, you know, crossing a highway of cars going 100 k's an hour and going, I'm going to go across, and there'd be an overpass. There's an asymmetrical negative bet there of, okay, well, you can either choose to go across and try to dodge the cars, and what's your probability of getting through versus going across the overpass. It's very, very straightforward, you know, bet there asymmetrically negative if you were to choose one over the other. I don't think, maybe there's some people out there, but you don't really think of that as a choice or a bet. You just kind of go, well, duh, I'm going to take this path. But I think it's in the asymmetrically positive versions where maybe it isn't supremely clear that that is the path. That's where maybe it's worth thinking about it as bets, percentage, what's the best return. That's the example of, do you place, if you had an inheritance and it's $500,000, okay, do you put that into an ETF, or do you put that into a apartment, or do you try to start a business, or do you try to invest in 10 small businesses? So all those options all have potential, like a bet that's for an improvement, which is, I guess, return on investment. But that's where you'd probably want to weigh up the bets and go, okay, well, yeah, what's the reality of this? What's the risk profile? How much do I expect in return? What's your own internal risk profile? And that gives you maybe better of an idea. And that, absolutely. Think about it in bets and probabilities as opposed to, that chess style thinking of decisions where, yes, you can make all these decisions in those paths that help you out or don't help you out, but they all have underlying bets, probabilities around making it work, etc.
Yep. So a couple of the chapters in here, just so people can get an idea of this, because there was a couple other things to touch upon. Life is poker, not chess. Wanna bet to learn, fielding the unfolding future, the buddy system, descent to win, and adventures in mental time travel. So the chapter 4 and 5, the buddy system and descent to win, that really focuses upon finding out the truth. And so she was saying like a lot of the time to like learn to thinking in bets is, yes, it's about attaching a number or a numerology to something and then sticking to it. But then it's also like, okay, you're making smarter decision making when you don't have all the facts. Part of it is about, okay, how do you find out more facts even if you don't have them all? Or like, how can you make that decision smarter? And so she was saying a big part of this is just a focus on finding out truth. And so for her, like, she doesn't really define what truth is, but I think it's more about not lying to yourself rather than finding truth. So for example, she talks about how there's these times where she was learning how to first play poker. Her brother had got into it, and her brother was a poker champion as well. Okay. I think even better than her. So sucked in, Annie Duke, get wrecked. But he gave her like this list of like good hands to play to just start off with. Like, ace is great hand. That's probably something you want to play. 7-2, nah, don't play that one. That's a bad one. And she would play these hands where she'd get like an ace. She'd do, play it all perfectly, and then the final card of the flop or whatever goes against her, and the other person wins. And she's like moaning about it. It's like, oh man, I just had such bad luck, blah blah blah. And he was essentially going like, I don't give a shit. Like, stop complaining. I don't want to hear about it. I want to hear about your decision making. Did your decision making up to this, was that good? Was that rational? Was that something that you're happy about? And would on average that work well for you? Or and yes, you might have got unlucky, but like, I don't want to hear about you bitching about this unluckiness. You should be proud of, don't focus on the negative part of it, focus on the good stuff that you did, and then vice versa. If you make bad decision making and you get lucky and you win the hand, don't be like crowing about your good luck, because if you keep doing this, you're going to get wrecked in the long term. So it was about kind of like finding a truth-telling system. Kind of reminded me of, I guess, your sounding board project idea. And you mentioned that recently. Have you thought of what are your current thoughts on that? And
I think I've created one, but it's just using AI tools, to be honest. Like I've kind of moved away from.
So what does that look like?
It would look at decisions or thoughts that I do want advice or competing ideas or challenging thoughts behind it.
So do you have multiple?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So what does that look like? Have you given them personas? Are they different models?
I haven't I know people give them like personas and names and things like that, which is, I don't really care for that. I just, as long as they're doing the thing, it's just different models. So I don't use the Grok one, but Claude's, Gemini's, and OpenAI ones. I've got all of them in terms of the higher level models of them, and all of them give slightly different views based on both what I've interacted with them. But like the example that you're giving, I'm not giving them all very different personas. Be like, act like this or do that. It just seems generally like by default they will provide different types of feedback or ideas or deliveries. Sure. What I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I've been experimenting recently with and I wanted to give some tangible decision making that I've changed a little bit from reading this, plus something I was working on anyway, was one of my monthly goals was to talk to the AI more as like a companion, a guide, a therapist, whatever. And I was asking it about some of my financial decision making in particular. And it was really funny because it would point out things to me that I was perhaps unaware of. Because I was saying, and I think when you talk to it long enough, that has been the real game changer because I haven't really bothered doing that before. I don't like typing. I don't like writing stuff in. It takes too long. Whereas talking, I could do that on a walk while taking butters, and I'd actually give it that extra information, which would make me realize, oh, here's something that's contradictory. So I was saying I don't particularly I feel like I'm rather risk averse in many ways. When we do this gambling thing, I'll talk about that soon. I take the least risky option compared to my brother. And in many instances in my life, I can point out things where I'm like, oh, okay, that was where I was real hands off. I don't want to touch this thing. I don't feel like it. Then I was saying all this to it and then talking about my decision making. And then it's bruh, you're not risk averse at all. You're heavily concentrated in a financial asset which has extreme volatility. How can you it didn't say how can you say that, but it was no, you're not that risk averse. and that was actually really a bit of a wake up call for me, going oh, you know what, that's true. I might have to.
I guess it's putting the context of your conversation at a global level, but you surround yourself with individuals in an ecosystem where there's even more risky behavior, and that's seen as the norm. So you're in the safe side of the risky system, but if you look at it globally, if you look at it, every possible option, it's okay, yes, that is a very risky option.
And look, you could argue that the person who takes the safest path in life, they choose the job with the most stability, they do X or they do Y or they do Z, they're perhaps living the riskiest life of all by not taking any chances, So there's arguments either way. But that was a nice little touch point. And if you remember, I had kind of some targets I set up for this last financial cycle, I guess you'd call it in crypto. And I was I'd like to take some profits at these levels, X, Y, Z. And I got it wrong because none of the things got reached. None of my expectations of where I thought things would go occurred. And so I was
now, interestingly enough, as you're playing this out, I even vividly remember where I felt like it was kind of top of cycle. And in my mind, it felt almost obvious externally, going this is a selling point. This is a selling point. And I even remember talking to you about, hey, are you going to sell some of this now? Definitely sell some now. But you had some set targets, and to this point we're talking about, it's your decision making wasn't wrong. It just turned out that the percentage of it might have just been that's just where the turning point was for the current cycle.
Sure. And it's tricky because if you remember, I was talking about this guy, DJ Investor, and I was kind of really interested in him because he was on point for a lot of his decision making, but then screwed up the kind of, not the execution, but the pre-planning, I guess you'd say, for what he was going to do. It was great that he had a plan in place, much like myself, and then both of us, much like I followed him in my poor, the pre-planning was poor. So now I go okay, it was good that I made a plan, but I guess you'd say in this book, the analogy would be, she gets a King 10 offsuit or something, and is all right, I'm going to play this hand, and thinks that she has the information for this particular scenario of, this person bet this much, so that if they're betting that percent of their stack, then that probably means they have this combo or something. Goes through all of it, and then not only wins or loses, doesn't matter, but then finds out later oh, I thought the probability of me winning was 50%, and it was actually 20%, because it shows it on the on the video channels, for example, when you're watching poker. So perhaps she's watching the game afterwards. She's like, oh yeah, I remember this hand. I had a 50% chance of winning. And then it's like, oh shit, it's 20. Damn, like that's really poor. I should fix that. So I guess like, it was good that she had a model in her mind. It was good that I had a model in my mind of what I was going to do and that I was going to follow through, but the model was wrong. So now it's like, all right, let's try and redo this again, but make it better.
Sure.
So,
yep.
In my consultations with AI, I've talked with it more about like, okay, how can I improve that modeling of, and this actually, I went to a Bitcoin meetup Thursday, and I was talking with Danny and James Check. And so Danny's host of the What Bitcoin Did. James Checkmate is another Aussie guy who's really on-chain data analytics, things like that. I quite identify with James. One, he's the same age as me, as us. Two, he's kind of in the very similar boat where he's like, I've been all in for a while and I like have needed to diversify for like sanity reasons in a way.
Yeah, okay, fair. Yeah.
And I'm kind of at this same sort of point where it's like, riding the cycles has been fun, but it's like, there is a point where you have to go like, I can't keep doing this. Like, and I was asking him about his decision making and, like levels, or does he base decisions on like time? And this is particularly selling. And he also said like, he finds it very easy to buy when things are low, but selling when they're high is much harder for him. And this is a same psychology thing for me. Yep. I find it very difficult to sell when it gets higher. I guess like, what would you call it? The opportunity cost or the FOMO of it when you're in the moment. That's something like that. So I was asking about like, do you do it based on percentage moves of like, let's say you've got X amount of your portfolio in one thing in A, and then, X amount in B, and it's 70 and 30, and say it goes to 80 and 20, do you rebalance when it gets to that point? And in that rebalancing, do you purely like sell one to buy another, or do you just sell to hold some and then move it to another? So there's a whole bunch of like things like that where I was asking it, and I'm gradually honing in on, I think, a strategy that will, I want to make it not too complex. So perhaps it'll have a time component, perhaps it'll have a percentage component, and perhaps it'll have a sheer like volume or like a moved, if it's moved X from the mean, sell. But that's kind of like my thought process and why I'm actually starting to try and utilize some of the things in this book.
Yeah, I think part of that, as you were talking it through, I go, it's actually missing a layer. And I'd be interested to hear what you think about it. I was on to see of the comments coming through on the YouTube as well. We might go to Boostergram and then we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
What is that comment from there? Can you read it from there?
Yeah. So Cole says they should remake the Truman Show movie and have the audience bet on what Truman will do next, leading to him to defying the odds and breaking out of his live stream.
I wonder if because you can do live.
Well, I want to talk about prediction markets.
Well, you can do. I mean, this already exists, but you can do live. I mean, live betting of sports has existed for a long, long time. But I don't know if you know that you can do live betting, but it's on screen on TV. So there's companies out there that will do it. Is you'll be watching the game, and as you're watching the game, they'll overlay prediction markets like Polymarket or other things. So they'll go, this person here just dropped the ball. Do you think he'll catch it in the next throw? Bet now.
Oh, really?
And they'll do it like live as the game is going on the view, which is kind of like it's very cool. If I was watching that and I was a gambler, man, I'd be all down for that for sure.
Yeah. That's well, I think stuff like that is coming pretty soon.
Well, I mean, like it exists right now. I'm telling you right now that exists in NFL, but I think it'll be.
I haven't seen
broad.
it.
It'll be broad as well.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Absolutely. I had just last thing on this book before the Boostergram Lounge. I had a note here for page 150 to read out. I think it might be this section here. Experts engaging in traditional peer review, providing their opinion on whether an experimental result would replicate, were right 58% of the time. So they were just asking, like, okay,
Sure.
Scientists, what do you think about this individual study? When they actually had a betting market in which the traders were the exact same experts and those experts had money on the line, they predicted correctly 71% of the time. So it jumped from 58 to 71. So there is something inherent in the, basically exact same question to the exact same people. If you're just being asked, like, what do you think, versus even if it's just a token of intent,
changes the dynamics of it.
Yeah, it changes the dynamics, and for the better in this case. So,
sure. Yep.
That's one like little thing that'll lead us onto the prediction
and
markets.
It does shift as well. Boostergram Lounge. We got nothing coming in the Boostergram Lounge. It doesn't go on. That's right. Ooh, beanie goes down. It's Boostergram Lounge. You can send through streams or boosts on the meremortalspodcast.com/support if you want to have a look at any of the details around that and how you do that.
We need a live thing that pops up on people's screen. It's like, 10 cents or like, donate X amount of money and the beanie will go on.
$20 and Karen will take his pants off. That's what it'll be. It'll be live OnlyFans, but on YouTube. So see how quickly we can get
$50 and I'll piss the bed for you.
Feel free to support if you can, Mere Mortals, or share this with others, or feel free to send comments as well.
Absolutely.
So, to the point you were talking about then, I wonder if it's missing a part, which is, and something that Cole, I said in a message through the week, which is, and this has not always been the case, so it's only coming very recently, but the percentage of wanting to stack cash, money, assets is quickly deteriorating in terms of priority, what it means to me. And again, I've kind of said it in the podcast before, 2xing, 4xing where I am right now doesn't do much for me. Maybe 100xing for sure does. Is the context of what you want or what you're seeking to achieve missing from at least that particular financial conversation that you're having right now with your advisor, an AI advisor? And then this you could, absolutely multiply and extract to other places. Because if you're missing the context of what it is that you want to achieve, are you putting too much at risk for the, percentage of the bet that you don't even need to? Now, what I mean by that is you could be making right now a conversational choice of, okay, I want to maximize my investment, maximize it to the hilt to whatever I do, and then, diverge that into different investment assets so I can feel more confident and it's, distributed and whatever else. But, and this, I don't think this is, but if you were theoretically to sell everything right now, and then that satisfied everything you need in life, then does it change the bet and going, okay, well, what the hell are you doing more bets for? Where you could essentially just cash out right now and satisfy what your enough is. Now, humans in general, and this applies to all of us, will always be looking at the delta plus one. Like, yes, if I'm here, why can't I just go for more one and more one? And as much as it's so easy to say 10 years ago, this is where you wish you were, Karen was talking about this the other day. You haven't worked for 10 years, like in a formal, traditional job. You haven't worked for 10 years. 10 years ago, I'm sure you would have been like, man, I don't want to be working again. And here you are, you're not working again. And then there's a bit of a, even in saying that, even if it isn't that, but if it's something adjacent to, you'll be like, well, I achieved that. Like, I'm doing the thing that I wanted to and achieved that. But here you are thinking still of like, okay, but how can I maximize still my investment so I can get more money and more income or more return? Now, it's not to say that it isn't a fine thing to want that, but does it change the bet that one takes if you bring in the actual of what you need? A separate one to money, I guess for others to understand, is right now the difference between me and you in the marathon run, where Karen's like a really good possibility of a sub 4 hour marathon. Like a sub 4 hour marathon isn't not out of the question. It's very probable, and it's just how much faster can you go. For me, it's doing the marathon, but it's realistically probably 4 hours to 4.5 hours of the reality of getting it done. Mm-hmm. But if I was to sit and do the mathematics and what do I need to do a sub 4 hours, the bet or the percentage of me doing that versus the effort kind of doesn't make sense to where I am right now and what I need to do the 4 hours to 4:30. similarly makes no sense for you to be putting a bet on, trying to do sub 3 hour marathon with, again, the investment and the time and whatever else comes along with it. So it's sort of like,
it has been bad, but that's been popping into my head.
so, but you know what I mean? It's kind of like,
yeah.
Where does the investment, like, you got to connect it to the actual of what satisfies what you need. Otherwise, you just sat there chasing forever more things and never attaining the satisfaction of it enough.
Yeah. I guess so complete transparency right now, or actually I'd have to check, but I'm probably level with where I was monetarily.
You were saying this
10 years ago. Yep. So in a certain aspect, I have not moved at all. If we're taking debasement into account, potentially I'm even poorer than I was at that point.
But again, for transparency for people, that's Kyron not working,
correct?
Again, not earning an income per se. That's like in a traditional job income. You've attained money here and there by sale of digital art and by other means of gaining income, but for the most part, you've kind of just lived off your own back for 10 years in a way that services your life well.
And this is something that I've noticed amongst my friend group who are, I guess you could say, more alternative. So the ones who are more PTs, or they keep cycling through like these random ass jobs. My ex-roommate, like every time I meet her, which is like infrequently nowadays, it's like, oh, okay, that's your job now? Interesting. That's I wouldn't have thought that was even a possibility. And what I've noticed with them is they are very much like, on the financial side of things, they're not savers particularly, for a large portion of their lives, they've even been in debt, or perhaps even still are. And what I've noticed with them is like, they are exactly kind of what I've been doing. They are more than happy to do that for the rest of their lives. And just, they'll die probably with like very little assets, but that's not even necessarily a bad thing if it's, a lot of them don't want children, for example. And so who are they going to pass it on to? Like, they wouldn't have anyone to pass it on to. So they don't need it. It's very, it's a mindset which I'm not 100% comfortable with in terms of like the absolute levels, but I do appreciate in the aspect of like, oh, they're very clear with what they want from their lives, and so they don't have this need to, absolutely go out there and buy a house for the assets and all these sorts of things. So I think most of this is based on your particular circumstances, and for me, a 2x, a 4x, a 5x would make a material difference in my life. My decision making would change a lot. I would certainly be a lot more willing to do like small travels, for example, to Asia, to a conference or something like that. There's certainly a lot of aspects in my life where I would go, oh yeah, I would probably move to this new location. I would, I guess you could say, like, upgrade to a certain extent. And the upgrading would not, like, I probably wouldn't buy a new car, but I would change where I live location. I probably wouldn't, buy a XYZ bag or designer clothes or anything like that. But I would do another small thing, like maybe I've been talking about a new laptop for a while, for example, and I still probably might even do that regardless of financial stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
So for me, it's like, okay, I'm not in that point where the money consideration can be completely it's certainly more front of mind now than it has been, I would have said, like 5 years ago.
Yep.
And part of that is just going like, all right, I am getting older. Hitting 34 the other day just made me go like, all right. It kind of felt like the same when I turned 28. Going from 27 to 28, it was like, oh, I'm in my late 20s now. Like, this is actually a big deal. Like, this is actually a kind of significant change point in where I would say the cycle of my life is.
Okay.
I'd almost say the same thing. Going 33 to 34 was like, all right, I'm like not like, someone yesterday was trying to convince me that I could say I was in my early to mid 30s, and I was like, nah, I'm in my mid 30s now. Like, you can't
change that.
So yeah, I do think you're right. There's you got to take into consideration those and like make sure you're not chasing the wrong thing, for example.
Yeah. So like what was playing in my mind at the very beginning of the podcast was one of the things to know really well. This is the common trope is when you retire, and the common trope, at least for a male, is you retire, you go play golf, you sail the seas, you go to some beach, you relax.
Yep, that's what my dad's been doing.
Exactly. Now, in your dad's case, he's played golf through his life as well. Not that he's traveled a lot in the past, but he does a lot of the things that he was doing for 20 years, right? And he knows that he enjoys it and he has a passion for it. And so the fact that he's retiring and does all that is absolutely fine. That's exactly what he wanted to achieve and do. In the circumstance of your dad, I kind of go, if your dad 10x'd what he has in assets or income, it wouldn't change a damn thing.
No.
It wouldn't change anything.
Not at all.
So it's like the enough has been reached in that point. Whether he distinctly manipulated it to be that way or not is another thing, but he did. He reached that enough, whatever that means for him. There is people that I know in not super close circle, but I know one of them I had on the podcast before. Others like I have conversations with. These two individuals are like relatively like our age. One of them's younger, and both of them are multi 6-figure per month income, right, through different streams, and both of them live in different lives. One of them travels a lot, the other one doesn't, has a business, does a lot of things in Australia. And in conversations with a lot of the way that they live and do things, I kind of go, again, it's a multiplier. If I was sitting in something like that, would I be trying to live that life? Is kind of an example. And, just a direct comparison because I know what they do. And so part of it goes, nah, not really. Like there's no, yes, there is a level of fun or enjoyment that I could see coming from that. And again, getting back to the conversation of bets and probabilities, is it worth my value to invest, do things that puts me to that potential? Well, the percentage versus the actual improvement in life is actually not that great. And when you look at it and it's the actual realities of the way that they live, that I go, okay, I actually probably wouldn't enjoy that much. So to the one guy that he travels the world all the time, like he's all over the place all the time. And that sounds good in a way to certain individuals for sure. I wouldn't hit that. But for me, again, I've got a family, kids. I really enjoy being in one place. I like training in like the same sort of location. I like my routine. I go, nah, that wouldn't be fun. I really enjoy traveling when I go, I stay there for a little while and I come back and I go back to my base. So I don't want to be doing that. So I don't need that level of income to be doing these sort of things. And that's not to say that I know exactly what the enough is now. Because again, as I've said, I wouldn't mind if it's 100x. I just don't care for 2 to 4x. Would I do the things that maybe takes 100x? Maybe not right now. But if it, right now, all the things that I think of, I go, it would take so significant amount. Like my bet to do that, to reach 100x, would be either so much effort, so much risk of the existing, that it's not worth it. I go, okay, it's not worth the 100x to potentially lose some of the stuff that I have now. It's like, no, that's an asymmetrical bet that doesn't feel symmetrical, but I can't genuinely say it would be an asymmetrical positive bet. And even if it was, sort of effort that it requires to get to that level. Yeah. And so it's like,
I remember, she didn't talk about this much in the book, but I remember there was this TV show where it was one of the main plot lines in it was this guy wanted to do $1 million bet on a red or black hand, and on like a I don't know if it was roulette or if it was just like he wanted to do like risk it all, and so he basically saved up to $1 million to then do it, and there was like this big media frenzy about it.
Sure, yeah.
He got like this agent who was then like helping him, and he's like, oh yeah, if we get this publicity and stuff, and like basically like if we go to this certain casino, you can do the bet, and the casino will just give you $1 million for the advertising, the promotion stuff, and like he kind of gets sucked into it, and then eventually he's like, wait, I don't want any of this. I just wanted, like, the whole point was I wanted to risk it all and to do a $1 million bet on this. Like that was like this guy's dream or something.
That was the outcome. Yeah.
Now, retarded dream in a way, but I can go like I think the thinking in bets as well is about really just dialing in on what you want.
Well, sorry. So to that exact point, sorry, and I think that's why I was talking about the retirement thing, or the thinking in bets, and you talked about, and it's on the book, of, finding out the truth or looking to the truth. So a lot of the time, like what I was going to say was, whatever it is that you imagine, dream, think of, actually attempt to do it for a little bit. Sorry, before retirement. Go play golf and sail the boat for 2 days. You can invest that. Do you like it? Do you not? Same thing with if you were to live a week in a 10x type of mentality. Okay, yes, it's going to cost you some money. Save up for it. But if you live it for a week and not be dishonest about it, live it in a true way where maybe you still have to go to work, maybe you still have to do certain things, you still have to look after your kids, maybe you still want to train. You do all the things, and if you get to the end of the week and you go, this is so worth it, I want to continue doing this forever, cool, then you've kind of given yourself a reasonable reason for what. If you go play golf, 4 times in a week, and you kind of go out there and I'm like, I don't want to play any more golf. It's kind of telling you probably, then here's your reality. You don't actually want to retire and do that. You might want to be doing something else.
Classic example right at the start of the book. There's apparently poker players really enjoy taking bets on rather random stuff, on betting on everything. And so we'll talk about prediction markets very shortly. And so there was this guy, let's see if I can find his name right at the start here. He was basically in Las Vegas when they were, this is back in the days of I don't know, the Wild West of Las Vegas. Perhaps there was more mobs and think seedy dark rooms with smoke-filled players, betting tens of thousands and just being loose cannons, essentially. And there was this guy there who he was essentially they was talking about some random place in Minnesota or something, just bumfuck nowhere. And he was like, I could live there for was it a month? I think the bet was a month. And the people were like, no, you can't do that. You're way too addicted to gambling and to the Las Vegas lifestyle and things like this. And he's like, oh no, if I moved there for a month, and the rules were he had to stay on one street, which had a bar, a restaurant, and he was allowed to play golf as well. That was the kind of 3 things. But he couldn't travel anywhere. He couldn't do anything other than that. And the bet was for 60 grand that he could stay there. He'd win that much, and if not, he had to pay them 60 grand. And so he goes out there, and then 3 days later, he's calling him back up, trying to weasel out of the bet, saying hey, look, I've already proved I can be here for long enough. And they're no.
You got to be there. Yeah.
So eventually, they call the bet early, and he ends up paying them 30 grand.
Okay.
And so I think that's he lost the bet, but he won in the sense that, okay, he actually found out whether he could do it or not.
Sure.
Whether he could, and it turns out, no, he didn't enjoy this, idealistic lifestyle that he'd heard about that other people
100%.
would
Yeah,
maybe
100%.
enjoy.
Yep.
So, yeah. Prediction markets. So that's a big thing. We haven't really talked about it, but essentially it's the idea of being able to bet on anything. This same sort of deal. Poly markets, probably the biggest one that you might have heard of, but Kalshi is another US one, US only. I tried to use it. I couldn't, even with a VPN.
Damn.
And you're actually starting to see it in a lot of the betting apps here, where some of them are going to have to change their name. Sportsbet has non-sports related bets in it about, they call it novelties and entertainment, but
it's just about everything.
On the Academy Awards, you can bet on what the mascot is going to be in 2032 for the Brisbane Olympics. You can bet on the Swedish, who's going to be the Swedish contestant in Eurovision, which occurred last night, and which, yes, I did bet on. There's all of these random ass things that are now starting to pop up. And probably the biggest one is politics, which we saw with the big Trump elections, and that was what Polymarket became famous for, I guess, in that a lot of people made a lot of money by guessing correctly on there. And also how it's kind of intersecting with markets and insider trading. So have you ever used Polymarket one?
I haven't. Nope. I've looked at it and see how it like works and whatnot, but I haven't personally put the bet on.
So you can't access it here from Australia.
Correct.
You can use a VPN. I don't know how legal or illegal that is in terms of you as the participant doing that. And also, if you're putting money on any service, there is a risk. Even though it feels like there's no risk by having your money in a bank, there's still a risk there. It's just, what is the percentage? 0.0001% that you'll lose your money by keeping it in there. But I found it really interesting playing around with these things. Like I mentioned, I'm a risk averse in a certain sense.
Risk averse in a risky world.
Yeah, so I like doing bets where I just find that the odds, so called arbitraging, the odds on one side, if I put $10 on there, I'll win X amount. If I put $90 on here, I'll win X amount. And if the two X amounts are equal and the amounts that I can win or lose are the kind of same, I didn't explain that well. Let's say it's like a $10 bet and I can win $100.
Yeah, if the two bets net you a higher number than the original bets, then you found an arbitrage where you've got a positive sum where you can't possibly go below your initial bet.
Yeah, so real clear, $10 bet and I can win 100. If I put a $89 bet and I can win 100, then I'm set no matter what, because I'll either win $11 via one and lose 10 on the other side, or I'll win 90 and lose 89 on the other side. Yep. So therefore, I'm making money no matter what. I've been doing that a bit. It's surprising where you can find these small inconsistencies on these platforms, and some platforms you can really see, they are. It's a terrible idea to use this platform at all. Looking at you, Tab in particular, or Ladbrokes, the odds on them are just like you're getting screwed over. They're not the true odds. So thinking in bets, I think, can also be manipulated in a way where if you're looking at other people's thoughts and bets, they can be. It really should be something you're doing for yourself, because if you're using other people's advice, they're probably manipulating you in some sort of way, especially if there's financial gain to be made. So I haven't really trying to think, like, has there been any? It's been a fun experiment. I've been doing it for a little bit. I'm probably going to ease off in terms of how much time I've been spending on it, just because it's starting to dry up in terms of actual, I don't know. It's like in terms of, if I'm looking at it as it was a fun experiment, but if I look at it in terms of pure dollars per hour of how much I'm actually making, there's nothing. It's not. The
effort's not worth the spend. Yep.
So now that it's become more drudgery and not fun, it was really fun for a while, and now it's this is
there's a bit of effort that one do it. Yep.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna stop doing it, but that as well, I think, got me into this mindset of thinking in bets. She does mention a little bit on prediction markets here, and we probably won't get into all the crazy stuff that can happen where you can influence the odds yourself. I saw one. There's one about podcasting and podcast awards, and that was one where I was going I could perhaps influence this or not influence it, but that's something I know a bit more deeply than your average person. So maybe I'd be able to get an edge. The other one was my idea is to get a bunch of volunteers, let's apply for the Brisbane 2032 Olympics.
Yeah.
So we've got people on the ground, and so prediction markets will probably be even bigger in 6 years' time. And basically I'll be the main dude, and everyone's calling me, giving me inside information. I just saw Noah Lyles, and he's puking in the bathroom, and I'm like, oh, okay, bet against him not to win. But then again, even with this insider information, I think you can still get royally screwed. Like,
yes,
you by can. Misinterpreting things.
100%.
Say like I got that information. I'm like, I'm going to bet against him. What if he does that all the time? And that's like,
that's his exactly.
Yeah, his
I don't know if you've ever watched the TV series Billions. The majority of the beginning of the seasons and the episodes are all about this. Like they're always like some.
Like it's a counterintuitive.
It's a counterintuitive. Yeah. Like so, the reason the big billionaire of the show acts, what makes him like so cool is that usually all these hedge funds, all the stories are like, oh, this is going to happen, and this is the logical thing, but they discover something and whatever, and then he'll pop up and go, you're thinking about it this way, but actually that guy owns 10% of the back end this way, and he's actually sold it because of this. So he wants you to think that, and it's actually this, and it was like, oh my god. So it's a bit like that. You could fall under the premise of, oh yeah, that's the continuous, but that's what Noah Lyles wants you to think, and then he ends up winning. So yeah, again, it goes back to, I think certain information is good, too much information is potentially dangerous because it elevates the percentage of what you think is it elevates your percentage of likelihood when actually the likelihood might have only increased a little bit, but you've now become so over and above confident that your conviction raises beyond the levels of the probability that it is, and then you move beyond bets, and I think that's where the decision that you're driving actually starting to go wrong, because you're putting it all on information and data that only really raises it by a little bit.
Yeah, I guess that's a way of just saying the Dunning-Kruger effect. You start to learn something a bit more, and you feel like you know about it, and then but you're still on the downside of like your conviction's going up, but your knowledge is only a little bit, and then it's a long, deep valley until you reach the other side where your conviction starts to waver as you learn more and more nuances, and you're like, oh fuck, like I don't know about this for sure.
Like here's another interesting bet, and again, my wife hates this, and I talk about this all the time, where I'm like, I want to like be living in the right school catchment zone and talk about some schools and whatnot, but there's actually kind of opposed another thought in my mind where I'm like, I don't see schooling being the same in 10 years' time. Like I just don't see it with the progress of things that are happening. If people can look up Alpha School in the US, and now they cost a lot of money. It's $75,000 like US dollars, but the way that they've been doing it now for a couple of years, and it's basically like 2 to 3 hours of schooling, and then the rest of the time they do sports and other kind of advanced things to get them through. Mm-hmm. But that's existed now for a couple of years, and I can only see that progressing even further, probably in the private space and into the public space. Regardless, if I extrapolate and see that in 10 years, kind of clashes against my idea of being in a schooling zone if all of a sudden that's like meaningless and things change in the way that education gets passed along. In any case, that's where, part of my old existing thinking and decisions might actually be butting up against the realities. And so maybe I need to look more into the realities or the probabilities of that to whether I should really care about it or not. There was actually something kind of interesting I heard about. Two things. One, I don't know if you heard of the line. It was a build that they were doing in Saudi Arabia. They were going to do that super long build. How do you reckon that build's going?
All I can say is, so I go onto my brother's YouTube, which is like this mix of mine, and his girlfriend's. And so there's all sorts of like just random stuff popping up there. So stuff that I'm not interested in would be on there, and vice versa for him. And all I can say is I saw a thumbnail saying like it's not going well. So
correct, it's not going.
They just abandoned it.
They've abandoned it. Exactly, they've abandoned it. They're now changing scope so that they're turning that entire project into data centers for AI. That's the thing now. Yeah. So, nice. But if you had to put a bet, back when they very first began to like where it is now, things have changed so much that like maybe it seems obvious now. At the time, when they first began or presented this line idea and whatever, you would have been thinking about. There really that many people going to live there? How are they going to create this? Going to cost $1 trillion, but you never in a million years would have thought they're going to just transition into a data center type of mentality. So sometimes in thinking in bets, I have to make the best bet with the current information that you have, and life, world, things will change, and you can't, to the point of the decision making, I can't hate on the fact that the decision at the time was the right one. But the world changes, luck, if you will, percentage probability, things will adapt and change. You might not even know what they will change by. And that's the truth of the matter. We're a couple of months away from the US, publicly coming up with every bit of UFO alien information that they have. I don't know if you've heard about this. No. They've been forced, similar like with the Epstein files, they've now gotten a forcing function of how you have to release every documentation that you have on it. Who the hell knows what's going to come out of that, right? Who knows? But the similar, like, let's just say, take it to the extreme. Let's just say something bonkers comes out, right? Maybe it changes the way that you think of things or predict things or whatever. You can't be basing decisions today on what's going to happen like that. You just kind of have to go. That's somewhere in the decisions, whether it's a asymmetrical bet to the positive or the negative, that you can't even put into the equation. Otherwise, you start putting too many things into the equation and then you get paralysis. You don't do anything. So you need to be informed with enough information. Think of it like poker. You don't know everyone else's hands. You see the river. You know what you've got. You know how much cash you've got available. Or maybe you think about the assets or the things that you can play and you go, okay, you have to have a relative knowledge of going, okay, that feels like the right bet. You have to also know when it's time to walk away with the chips, and go, cool, that's it. I'm gonna step out of the game and do my own thing.
Yeah. So she actually talks about that where they call it tilting apparently, which derives its name from pinball machines where if you tilt it, it goes like all off.
Yeah, you can't go on tilt. Yep.
Yeah. And so that's when it's like your decision making becomes poor, and a part of that can be a function of time and energy. If you've been at the table for 8 hours, you're going to start making stupid decisions. So stop doing that. I'd really hope that all the info comes out and it's basically like the conspiracy theorists were right, but they were wrong. They were right that the government was like confusing, hiding, manipulating them, but that it was just all one big psyop. No hint of aliens ever existed, and that they were just intentionally like stoking the fires, the flames to make it mysterious. That would be funny.
I hope that what actually comes out is that they go somewhere along the lines of, we did find material and things that we weren't aware of, but we don't know if it was from another country, or we don't know if it came from outer space. We just know that we had it, and this is how we've come about with X, Y, Z things. Because I feel like that would drive everyone nuts, being like, well, where the fuck did it come from? And then it'll be like, no one knows, no country, where, out space. There's actually no answer. So I think that would stump so many people on being like, oh my God.
Oh man, that would just fuel more fuel on the fire of the conspiracy theories.
Correct.
And that would be the best.
One of the, this is just absolutely random, but one of the really fun things I like to do whenever a new AI model comes out is I like to try and challenge it to give me a unified theory of physics.
Okay.
And I will say that the latest two from Opus and OpenAI's ChatGPT-4 thinking and pro models have been the ones that they gave me a unified model of physics where as I went through it all, I was like, I believe this. I was like, this squares away everything I could like possibly imagine. Obviously, I'm not a physicist, not a mathematics, but the idea that it was giving
at the bottom of
the idea that it was giving, I was like, man, this is like, it seems reasonable, like it sounds reasonable. So I was like, this is kind of cool. But yeah, again, I think take all that with a grain of salt for sure.
That's funny. The last one I thought was, and Cole mentioned live streaming, was that's something that I mentioned this a little while ago. I've been thinking of doing more of it again, and in particular, I was like, I wonder if it'd be worth, if I'm talking about something that, let's just say I'm doing a strong idea of something. So Juan's just gone to the toilet, for those who are wondering. Strong idea on XYZ topic, and it's kind of future focused, or it's where I think the future will go. Let's say it's something on micropayments, and how I think that will change the future, or how I think art will exist in a digital format and have a provenance with art or something. Should I then include a bet of some sort with this? And I've done this before, and I had this open offer for anyone. The offer is now closed. Of I think it was 100,000 Satoshi or maybe 1 million Satoshis for whether Spotify would go
Can't remember how much it was. Yeah,
I think it was probably $1 million. And that one I go, I can't remember what the terms I suggested for it were, but I'm pretty sure I would get wrecked. If I was to do that same bet now, I'd be like, oh man, I probably wouldn't want to take that bet. So I'm glad no one took me up on that. I wonder if it's worth incorporating some of that into my life, where I go, this is how I think digital art's going to look like in the future, and then just try and find a market which reflects that view